Hello, thank you so much for waiting. I'm sorry to be late. This is Atsushi, and I will do the live streaming while talking about Sashiko and while stitching. Okay, let me start the live Instagram as well. All right, perfect. Thank you so much for coming to the live session, live streaming of Sashiko stitching, and I will be doing the Sashiko stitching while I talk about Sashiko today. I might not be able to pick up the comments on the Instagram well. So in that case, please check the YouTube. YouTube, I probably can do better job regarding to picking up the questions. Okay, so today I am working. So there are a lot of, I wouldn't say misunderstanding, but there are a lot of interpretation about Boro, and many people think that the Boro is the just patchwork of recycling materials. Um, it is not wrong. It is not wrong at all. However, it is not sufficient. It's not enough to describe what Boro is. So I am trying to make a sort of Boro 2B piece from the scratch. I am showing the whole process of how to make sort of the Boro 2B piece, and I will use these materials pretty much every day from today or from this week. And over time, let's say I'm estimating about 3 years or 5 years, I will make this like a Boro that we can see in the photos right now. So it is almost impossible to make the authentic Boro. However, we can also try to make one of the authentic Boro, and I try to. This is my like a challenge or experiment to follow the all the process of the Japanese people who made Boro a few hundred years ago would have done the same way. Of course, we have better materials, better tools, but that's the whole purpose. That's the kind of process of this piece. So this will be a scarf. This will be the scarf. I use the Japanese vintage fabric, which is already fragile, and I do some stitching to make the fabric stronger and patch them together to make the to make it longer. There's not much rules. There's not much regulations of what to do, but one thing I would like to follow is that to not I'm not going to cut the fabric a lot. Well, I try to cut the fabric as less as possible. That's the whole purpose of this. They like we do not like to cut the fabric to size it up or to make it um like a good patchwork quilting. At the same time, I try to not to layer them as much as I'm sorry. I'm trying to layer the fabric as less as possible, not more than necessary. That's the second kind of not a rule, but second um, principle. Besides that, I keep stitching. That's what we're gonna do. All right. There's no need to use the vintage fabric, but the vintage fabric itself has already aged, and that's why it's kind of easier for us to uh, put the time in it. If I use a good Japanese fabric, like non-vintage fabric, it may take more than 3 years to make it like a Boro, even if I use it every day. And that's good. That's good, but at the same time, that may be a bit too much to show the process. So I will keep. Oh my gosh, I cannot. Well, again, like let's see. I have not really done this. I am doing with the jacket, but that's something what my mother made it for me, and I'm stitching over that. So have not, I don't have that much good experience to do it from scratch. So let's see how it's gonna go. Yeah. It's I don't have any blueprint for this. I don't have that much plans of what to do. What I'm trying to do is to just try to talk to the fabric as much as I can so I don't have to waste them. You should. Mm, this is a very good point of the. Okay, let's go back here. What kind of thread do I use? I use the Sashiko thread. There's a reason we call it Sashiko thread, and thread is very important. So please check our website. It's upcyclestitches.com, and we sell the thread we use. We recommend. I would not use the other thread for Sashiko stitching or even Boro stitching. I mean, there's no such a thing as Boro stitching. So I would recommend using the Sashiko stitching. And to make Boro, it's also a good idea to use the Sashiko thread because there's a big difference. And if you want to know what is the difference, please check the video on this YouTube channel. I think there's a playlist of Sashiko story, and then you can find what is the difference between the Sashiko thread and the other thread. I hope this mic is doing okay. I replaced it today, which I think it's better. Yep, thread does matter. Some people say it's okay to use any kind of thread. It is okay. It is okay to use any kind of thread, but the result will be very much different. I mean, even if the thread says Sashiko thread, there's a big difference by the makers and brand. So first use this thread saying Sashiko thread. If you kind of don't like your result, try to use the thread we recommend. こうかな。いや、か。うん、うん。ちょっと重ねようかな。Mike sounds good. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, it's not bad at all. I will keep using it, and now today is the thing. Thank you. I haven't watched all of the videos with. Yeah, thank you, thank you. Yes, don't worry about. It's okay to ask questions at all. I mean, just please try to check them later. I might kind of recommend you to watch the Sashiko stories first because the tutorials itself is good, but at the same time, learning the why is quite important to understand what I'm doing today. So, first Sashiko stories. I think I have like 7 or 8 videos. It's not that long, so just watch that, and then if you could watch the tutorials, that will give you the basic understanding of what Sashiko is. Hmm? Oh, 危な。危なって日本で言っちゃった。So the each stitches makes the fabric stronger. Well, as long as you use the proper thread and proper fabric, each stitch will make the fabric stronger. And Sashiko is a stitching for, well, Sashiko is of also, sorry, Sashiko was the stitching for the mending. It is not wrong at all. But at the same time, is the most of the Sashiko stitchings we see today with the patterns, they were not for the mending. They were more like to make the fabric stronger. Before something bad happens to the fabric, they wanted to keep the fabric stronger, and that's what happens with a lot of patterns we see today. So even when we make sort of Boro 2B piece, we try to stitch as much as we can before the damage happens, while we try to make it damaged. The same times using some of the, you know, uh, file, we call it file, like, to kind of grind something, and that's gonna kind of lose the taste of mending. Like, what's the purpose of mending if you kind of damage it for your purpose? So I will not do that. So I have to kind of keep using until it really happens. Excessive washing is not also a good idea to make it natural. So it's gonna just take some time. I will use it. I will keep stitching. I will see what's gonna happen later on. I think overusing that much time, it's gonna be like Boro looking, I hope. So it's like a social experiment, which I have been doing with my jacket, but I cannot wear the jacket every single day. It's a little weird to wear that to pick up my daughter, so. But this one, probably I can wear that when I pick her up. It's just a scarf, so. I like the sound of this fabric too. The sound of thread going through the fabric. It's kind of nice. It's kind of nice. I don't know if this can catch it up, but I can try to share that on YouTube mic. This sounds. There we go. I hope it worked. Okay, so today's live is kind of very simple. I'm not doing any patterns. I'm just stitching this single line to make this scarf a little more durable. Durable. I think I can answer the questions if you have any, because I can stitch well. I can talk. If this is that simple. If like I couldn't really talk well in the Japanese live session. Well, I was talking a lot, but I couldn't answer the questions because I had to think a lot. You can hear that the sounds? Yeah, it's really nice sound. So I can be quiet and, some probably some people prefer me being quiet, but I'll keep doing that with the mic. This is a very soothing sound. Especially this fabric is quite tight for the vintage fabric. So whenever we pull the needle through, they make a nice sounds too. It's kind of it's the sound we don't really we really do not find in these days. So it's kind of nostalgic. Ah, そうか。Nice to see you working on something colorful, and I enjoy the sound of needle and thread pulling the fabric too. Good, good. Thank you. Just a second. I kind of found something that I have to do. Nasa. That's my cat. I probably shouldn't have. Well, let's see. Let's see. Hi. Ah, Sakura. Do you backstitch if you run out of a thread in the middle of stitching? Not necessary. I usually do not. Sorry, the cat is here, so she is here. あ、危ない。さくら危ない。さくら危ない。やめて。さくらやめて。なあ、そこ切ったら縫えないじゃんよ。さくら、please don't do this. さくら。 Sorry, the cat is here, so I don't know why cat always loved this stitching and thread and fabric. I kind of what is the now I'm still thinking that this might be a little too weak to this patch might be too weak for that. What is the good way to recover that? Mm, mm. So I'm kind of still thinking. That's why I'm not talking. Sakura, please don't come. Are you seriously staying there? Nope, nope, Sakura, please don't. Yeah, cat loves calm places. Some stitching makes you calm. Sakura will come. That's a good point. Yeah, and that's why she left now, because I started getting agitated.ちょっと待って。ここ難しいな。Hello, hello. I was going to stitch without even thinking about it, but now I kind of start thinking how I should do this. So just give me a little bit of. I might be a little bit quiet, more quiet than I was planning to be. It is my goal to make this fabric not that strong because I like to have some natural damage on it, but it might be just too weak if I keep doing this. So just a second. So this, well, if I pull this way, it's gonna open here. And I could have this one put in here like this, but I didn't want to do it because it's gonna be too strong. So I make these two. I don't want to do any zigzag. In that case, okay. Okay, another idea, which was not planning to do, but oops. Sorry for the very weird question, but how do you say Sashiko when you speak Japanese? I have to give a short 2 minutes presentation on hobbies for Japanese class, but I don't know the pitch for Sashiko. Um, if it is in the Japanese context, Sashiko, Sashiko, Sashiko する, Sashiko, 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 da da da, Sashiko is kind of natural for us to say. Sashiko するよ, Sashiko, 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 Sashiko. That's kind of the natural intonation when you say Sashiko in Japanese. But at the same time, since it's kind of weird to implement the Japanese pronunciation to the English context, so unless you are speaking the sentence with whole Japanese, you probably can say that Sashiko is fine for me. I usually say that Sashiko because I am speaking in English, and in English, Shiko sounds Sashiko, and there's nothing wrong with that. Um, there's nothing wrong with it because that's how the English pronunciation is made. Some people think that by knowing the pronunciation, they are master of Sashiko. No, that doesn't really change anything. It is very good to know how it sound, but at the same time, the sound itself is very much depending on the context you're speaking. If you are talking in English, worrying too much about pronunciation of Sashiko is gonna kind of ruin the rhythm. So, well, so if I say that in Japanese, Sashiko, Sashiko, Sashiko する Sashiko, 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 Sashiko is a way to say that, but that doesn't really that doesn't, yeah, it's good to think, yeah, it's good to know, it's good to learn, but what I want to say is that I pronounce differently when I speak in English. Sorry, that's what I want to say. I You may find me saying different pronunciation when I speak in English because it's very unnatural to implement the pronunciation of Sashiko in Japanese to the English. Like it's like a dipping the bread in the soy sauce. It's not bad probably, but it's kind of weird. So there was a person who kind of corrected my pronunciation of Sashiko when I was, well, it was actually in this live session, live streaming. Somebody said like your pronunciation of Sashiko is little, not even little. She said that my pronunciation of Sashiko is wrong, and I said, well, well. If I speak in Japanese, I probably wouldn't use this, but in English, Sashiko should sound like, she SHI shouldn't be C in when I'm speaking English. So that's, you know, that's kind of funny. My reading is a lot. Sorry, good luck. Good luck, good luck. Japanese is not easy language, but I don't think English is easy language neither, so. I mean, there's not such a thing as easy language for that matter, I guess. It's a big challenge that I'm gonna do right now. Just act braver than you feel. Braver? Braver. Well, this is the YouTube, so there are many strange people coming from time to time. So, yep, I tried to be as normal as I can. Just a second, okay? I will see what I can do for this. What should I do? What should I do for this? So what I'm worrying about is that this bond here is kind of weak. But I don't want to do anything significant. So I probably should have thought about it before I do this one. At the same time, I want to make a damage too. It's more like a design right now to think about. I don't want to stitch more than necessary.ちょっと書いてみよう。It's amazing how perfectly you got the spacing on each stitch. It's so meditative to watch. While I'm enjoying my Koopa? Is Koopa the like a dish? That's good. Yeah, thank you so much. Spacing the needles, spacing stitches is not that difficult for me. Thank God that I get... これかなやっぱり。これで一回やってみようかな。Cup of tea. Thank you. Cup of coffee. Wow. Like there's I think it's Korean dish, kuppa. It's like a rice in the soup with the beef on top of it. Another learning, kuppa. Cup of coffee. Wow. Cup of tea. Wow. Interesting. I would be thinking to double it up with another thin bit of fabric. That's one way to do it. That's one way to do it. That is actually one way to do it. That's probably the way to do it. All right, so I'm not gonna worry about it. So for now, it's kind of between the Sashiko artisans versus somebody who can really fix it. So the point is here, like it's kind of easy to see the, I just patched this to fabric together, so there's always way to possibility of breaking it here. And if my purpose was to make this fabric so strong, then I shouldn't open this seam. I should have, how do you call that? Like French style? No, I don't know if it's French style, but I should have put it on the one side and then stitch over that. But I kind of don't like stitching 3 layers at this time because it's going to be very, very thick. That's why I open it. So I think what we can do is to let it be, and then if something happens, I will fix it. Yes, and that's it. Let's do that. Yeah, if like, thinking doesn't really make it better, so it's kind of difference between the other art. Thinking is good, of course, but thinking itself really doesn't make it better because we do not know. We will not know the answers until we stitch or until it breaks. We cannot control the process of breaking or control the we cannot control the process of damaging the fabric. So it is okay. It is very good to think about the whole design, but at the same time, sometimes it's meaningless to think about it too. Let's see. That's where my perfectionism kicks in, but it's not the best quality to have to be the Sashiko stitcher. Yeah, it should be okay. Cup of tea and cup of coffee difference between the UK and America. Either way, it's not a cup of rice in a soup. Very educational. Thank you. It was my favorite dish when I was eating in the Korean restaurant. So it's really spelled like, oh, it's probably Kuppa, kappa, kuppa. But that's not something we eat in the morning. So very good to know. Yeah, this vintage fabric has some dust or something. So, sorry if my stomach grounds, grounds, getting super hungry. So my stomach makes sounds and make it. My stomach might make a sound. Sorry about that if it happens. So it's almost impossible. I probably said it in the beginning, but it's almost impossible to make the authentic Boro. At the same time, it is possible to try to follow that process. And this, I hope, what I'm doing right now today is what the Japanese people did in a few hundred years ago. Of course, they didn't have this good needle, good thread, good fabric, they had only what they had, but they did not. Well, they made this thread by using, like, they they twisted the thing yarn, thing thread, thing floss to make the Sashiko thread before. Now the company do it for us, so we don't have to do it. But it has a very unique twist, and that makes Sashiko thread the Sashiko thread. So I think we are doing these similar things today. Thank you so much for Googling. Yes, it's the Korean dish made by putting cooked rice into the hot soup. Wow, kubap. It's probably a different pronunciation in Japan. They probably, how do you say, not a, well, we have different pronunciations. Well, I mean, it's a Korean dish, and we probably pronounce it indifferently in Japan. Ah, my. I'm hungry too. That's why I'm kind of getting hungry today. Yeah, I am getting hungry. And it's already, wow, it's already 12:30. No, no wonder. I'll leave my American nonsense to myself next time. What is the American nonsense? Did I have any American nonsense today? Oh, wow. There are a lot of things I have to learn in American culture. Like, since I'm living here, I moved here, I'm the immigrant, so I have to, not I have to, I want to learn the interesting culture in this country. So, yep, it's lunchtime in the US, it's dinner time in Europe, UK. It's so interesting. People watch this live stream from all over the world, from the North Hemisphere, from the South Hemisphere, ha. Come on, I cannot pronounce it today. Well, not only today, probably. So I just today's live streaming, I just add the 2 lines, but it makes more sort of Boro looks. That's kind of the fun part of it. And this will make the fabric much stronger. So I will show you now. It's just a simple line of fabric. By using it, it doesn't have to be straight line up. It can be like this. Yeah, it's good, I guess. I guess. For now. Just this night. However, I am watching this right before bed. Singapore, yes. Thank you from the Singapore. Yes, Singapore is everywhere. That's so fun. It's one of my, how can I say, big appreciation for that many people enjoy Sashiko today, which was my dream when I was in 20s, like when I was doing the Sashiko company in Japan, which was 2008 to 2012, or even before that. I was just not the in the company, but because I was, a student at some point. It was my dream to talk to the people from all over the world about Sashiko, and the dream came true. So it's very good. It's very nice. 'From Europe, from other Asian countries. あれ Just a second, okay? なんで釣れるの 15 minutes or so, I will probably finish this live streaming. Wow, I didn't talk much today. Well, which is good. Sometimes the live streaming shouldn't be like as noisy as always. I usually talk a lot when I receive the question, or I complain a lot when I have some accident or some, unfortunate things online. But it is okay to have this kind of quiet time too. So if you have any questions, either ask me right now or leave the comments on the YouTube. Instagram doesn't really save the comments, so if you could leave the comments in YouTube, that's I can answer that next time. I enjoy Sashiko a lot in Argentina. Thank you so much. Yeah, there's a big wave in Southern America, I can tell. I wish I can speak the Spanish and Portuguese so I can communicate better. As of now, English is something I can do only. Hi, is there an easier way to do the finishing net stitch lines? Typically for your hard work. Sorry, what is the finishing net stitch lines? Sorry, I don't, probably, I just don't know that word. Finishing net stitch? Finishing net? Hi, Sakura. Fishing. Sorry, yep. Do the fishing net stitch lines. I don't do the fishing net stitch. But I think I don't do any fishing net stitch, so I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. It's another kind of hand stitching, I guess. So I really don't practice that. There are a lot of way to there's a lot of kinds of hand stitching, chain stitch, binding stitches, a lot of stitches kind. And it's not wrong or right to do one thing. So Any kind of stitch is good. But I just want people who like Sashiko to learn the running stitch, or so I call it the rhythmical stitching. The Japanese word is unshin. Um, I get a lot of questions like, how can you make the stitches so even? Ow, 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 ow. Your stitches are so even. How can you do that? Like, is there any techniques? There's actually a hint to do it. There's a way to do it. Try to not to. Oh, you're talking pattern. Like we don't talk about the pattern on the YouTube, because I wanna be fair with the online class participant. So I'm sorry about that. I try to not to talk about how to on the on the live streaming. I can talk about the meaning of those patterns, or history or stories about it, but I try to not to talk about how to. So sorry about that. If you're talking about pattern, if you're talking about technique, I don't know about the Hoshiami technique. If you're talking about the patterns, I would. Sashiko wa suteki. Arigatou gozaimasu. Thank you. I really have to work on the patterns though. Yeah, many people waiting for that. Ay. Strong case for joining the class there. Strong case. Well, it's not ready yet. It's not really ready yet for the my Sashiko class teaches how to make the even stitches without even trying to make even stitch. The Go back to the first topic, like how can I make the even stitches? The point is to not to make the even stitch. Once we try to not to make even stitch, we can make even stitches. So that's what I teach. At the same time, it's very important to share about the information and probably how to of the each patterns. I have some tutorials on specific patterns on YouTube already, but that's a big request. There's a big request from the students who took the online class, so I have to work on that. Where do you talk about how to? Only online class or YouTube still? I talk everywhere actually. I talk how to do this. Like I used to teach everything online, YouTube, and I think you can find the archives from there. Uh, it's kind of crazy, but I used to do everything on YouTube for free, and I had some very bad experience on YouTube and Instagram and everywhere. So I moved it to the for the stories, for the cultural aspect. I moved to the Patreon, and I started teaching them online as an online class. So one, if you are willing to learn by watching, I believe anybody can learn the Sashiko stitching from me by watching the my videos on YouTube without any money, without any fee. Because one of my goals is to make Sashiko available for anybody, regardless of where they live, what they have, what they don't have. So at the same times, online Sashiko class has 2 point, two good, two good sides. One is that I will be there for you, so you don't have to waste your time by learning something that I do not mean. That's a one good point. I'm gonna be like a navigator for that. And second thing is that it's a very good support for me. So I have to provide a family too. So if you could support that, I can continue this more longer. But as I keep saying everywhere on my website, everywhere, I don't want to really. My goal is to share Sashiko regardless of where they live, how they live, what they have, what they don't have. So YouTube, I think there are a lot of information on YouTube. Some some live streaming before I was probably talking how to do it too. I do not delete it for the purpose because it's there already. But at the same time, I stop answering the questions. I stop providing those things for free as the teaching because there are some people who, how can I say that, who were trying to over repaint that what I told them, and that was very painful. Does it make sense? Anime net pattern? Anime. Anime net pattern. Anime. All right. Yeah. Anime is the one. Not even Sashiko pattern. It's the geometric pattern that we can stitch. For sure, I'll be subscribing to your Patreon. I've learned a lot from just watching, but I truly appreciate. Thank you so much. That helps me a lot. I mean, the Patreon is very much cultural aspect. So if you want to learn how to do it, Patreon might not be the best place. I mean, I share a lot of personal things on Patreon, probably more than necessary. But I really don't talk about how. By the way, sharing how to is much easier than explaining what Sashiko is. Like many people wants to have a definition of what Sashiko is, what Boro is. I understand. I really understand. Like they want to know it right away. Today, you want to hear what Sashiko is and they want to use it today. But the defining things in the different language is very risky. So let's say that Sashiko is a form of Japanese stitching to reinforce the fabric. That's kind of a general understanding, general description, general definition of what Sashiko is. It is true, but it's very insufficient. There's a lot more things around it, but by defining things, especially in English, in a different language, it loses a lot of sense, I would say. Wabi-sabi is another word that it's kind of scary. Many people say wabi-sabi is appreciating the beauty in perfection. It is very true, but it is not only about that. So defining things is very important to be on the same page. It is very necessary to be effective, to be productive, to be efficient in explaining what it is. At the same time, when comes to the culture, it's very risky to depends on one definition. So my definition in Sashiko is a process to appreciate the fabric. That doesn't make sense sometimes. Like what? Like what do you mean by appreciating the fabric? You will get the I think the people who keep reading what I write and what I say understand what I mean. But for the first time comer, like what do you mean by appreciating the fabric? Oh, that means probably you don't throw away the fabric at all. That's really not the truth too. So people say that Boro is tattered fabric. It is. But it doesn't really carry the cultural aspect of, you know, cultural aspect of Japanese culture. Who made the fabric? So I try to be as honest as possible, and I try to be as supportive as possible to the individual because it is my goal to really pass down the culture. Like I keep saying that I'm the past of Sashiko, you're the future of Sashiko, and I want the future to understand the past to be the future. So I wish I could do what I'm doing right now for free to everybody. Uh, And I would like to do that when I have a like a strong sponsor. Or if I but as of now it's kind of difficult, so I have to kind of choose what I can do in the limited time I have. I'm sorry, my fingers are not that in. My Sashiko practice so far has brought me completely new understanding of the fabric. Yes, very, very true. Another definition I say about Sashiko is that Sashiko and also the process of making Boro is a process of talking to the fabric. Or in fact, listening to the fabric. Many people say, well, the fabric doesn't talk. Are you okay? Are you schizophrenic? Uh, Probably. Probably so. But at the same time, the fabric sometimes talk. And listening to them is much more important than making the accurate stitching. Because if fabric doesn't want to do it, then we shouldn't do that. We focus on the result too much to forget about the process. I mean, result is very important. Speed is very important to be successful. Result is very important to be recognized. But the point is, I'm not doing this to be recognized, for that matter. I've done that already and I failed. I'm just doing it to my. Selfishly, I'm doing this to my daughter. When she's not gonna do this. I mean, I'm not gonna force her to do what I'm doing right now, and she's not gonna enjoy it. Like I didn't enjoy Sashiko when I was a child, so she will not enjoy as much as I do today because it requires some experience to enjoy this. But I want her to sometimes in her life to find what her father did. So, but it's really very, very, very difficult to summarize in one sentence. So that's why I'm doing it. Yeah, like it's probably very Japanese like to force her to do it and to learn the culture from me every single time. But that's how I got damaged too, so I really don't want to do that to my daughter. Plus, she's half Jewish, so it's not fair for me to push my Japanese culture to her only. She has her own mother's side culture. Hello, hello, hola, 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 gracias. I really probably should study Spanish too. Well, but at the same time, I have to study Russian and Hebrew. Never ending story. Alright, I probably finished this today's. So pretty much all the questions are answered already on the YouTube, I think. I've been doing this live streaming for 3 years, mainly in Japanese, but many have asked me questions, and I try to answer those questions on YouTube as much as I can. So I think most of the answers are already provided, but it's kind of, how can I say, not comprehensive. I should make it comprehensive, but I don't have time yet. So at the same time, I have a very good. I'm kind of confident in my teaching skill, for that matter. After teaching the Sashiko workshop in-person workshop for 3 years, I probably taught more than 200 people, I guess, 200 to 300. And I implement that experience to the online last year after asking several people to do the like a review, not a review, test students, and after offering it to more than 100 people, I think I'm quite confident that I can share what I'm doing right now. Well, let's say the better way, I am very confident because some of the people who learn from me is just stunning. Like their work is just ah. Like I am jealous to them. I'm just jealous to them that, well, I don't have 8 hours per day to stitch. I wish I could, but I have to cook for my daughter. I have to, I'm a father, a stay-at-home father. I mean, not a stay-at-home. I'm the housemaker father, so I have to do a lot of house chores. So I don't have 8 hours for stitching. But when I become a grandparent, I probably have 8 hours, and some people have those 8 hours. Their stitching is just like I am jealous of them. And they did not stitch like I did, and they think that that's because of my workshop. So I think I can be quite confident for that. Okay, so this is the so far so good. So far so good. This is the Boro to be piece. Let's see. I'm gonna start using it from today. Oh, let's see. I learned to croquet as a child, dropped it, and came back to it in later in life. Show her the basics? Of course, I'm showing her the basics. Oops. Just a thing. I'm seeing my Sashiko pretty much every day. I'm showing it, and I let her hold the needles. She was 3 the first time she held the needle, and she thought that was the weapon from the ninja. Nope. But she has seen that. And she likes stitching, embroidery stitching, just not this simple running stitch. So, I don't know, she likes jumpings around. Well, she still thinks that a needle is kind of good weapon because it's pretty painful, and when the father said like ouch, the kids kind of like it. And it's a very bad thing to do. But I don't scream to my daughter, which I would have if I'm in Japan. But in the US, it's kind of, strict. So, my point is that I, of course, teach her that. Not a teacher, I show her that. And I hope that she might be interested in that. But at the same time, forcing is not my thing to do. So, ay, 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 ay. Yeah, I really wish I had like 8 hours per day to stitch. Well, it's my dream, and some of the people who learn from me is just super great. Oh, I think you have seen those photos of the pieces that they have done. I share that on Instagram a lot. So okay. So this is the scarf that I'm gonna use on my around my neck. Hopefully, I'll take a photos if I when I clean my face. I mean, shave my beards and everything with this scarf. And I hope this will. Oh, I keep adding stuff, I guess. It's. I don't know how this scarf should be like. Just a second, okay? Give me a few. Alright. I will turn it off for the Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Wow, it's over 1 hour and it's okay. And I will take a photo of this scarf and I will probably show it on the YouTube a little bit because I'm wearing it right now. So all right, thank you so much for the Instagram. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week. Meow. And here on the YouTube, I didn't clean myself well, but let me show you how it looks on me. Just a second, okay? Sashiko Live Streaming 16 Sakura. Okay, just a second. Come on. How do I do that? How can I show you my face? So, first thing I can do is to change these cameras to the different angle. I don't have any weird books on my bookshelf first, and then I will change the camera's angle. Like, there's a lot of stuff there. There we go. Just a second. Sakura, please move. Wanna say hello to everybody? Yeah. Right. Oh, it's upside down. Upside down, upside down. Just a second. And come. So it looks like this. It looks like this. It's a, I'll show my face later. But so this is a very long. Sakura, don't do that. Long connected vintage fabric, and then I plan to use it like a scarf. Well, I have to learn how to wear the scarf, but just a second. So it's gonna look like this. It's gonna look like this, and then by keep wearing by keep putting on putting keep by keeping using this, I think we can get more damages, more patches, then we can get more holes, and I keep patching it. That's how we can make a kind of Boro to be. So that's the whole plan. That's the whole plan. Okay, so thank you so much for watching today's live session. I'm gonna just turn it off like this so I don't have to worry about the camera again. Alright. Thank you. Have a good weekend. Bye bye.